she's gonna do her table or up to, I thought she went to the podium, but we don't have the podium set up, so, yeah.
Did you see him?
The administrator. Oh, assistant to the OCD office.
Yes, right.
I would imagine that's
No, did you go to that, yesterday? Well, this is, in fact, she didn't give us other states, in fact, get the copy of this right here.
It's available online also.
Oh, it is online?
okay.
And maybe
I'm not gonna find
maybe I
it.
did see that. Oh, you know what? It was an attachment that she sent, right, announcing.
They asked for 50.
That's one of those little red things.
Yeah.
I don't think I know.
I did send out everything.
You could.
I didn't know all those advertisements.
Yeah. Well, we know where
Want to file
negotiations start.
You can file papers.
Unsubscribed.
Make copies.
Right, some of them. But then they always change, something new's coming up.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing all day, it seems like. So where is your leader?
He's in Kansas.
Okay.
Family.
He
Said he's from Kansas originally, and he hasn't been there in 30 years. And
They're kind of like the president.
family do a road trip. I'm gonna go reconnect with family.
He might be back Monday.
So he told me.
Still don't have it cut.
Following the yellow brick road.
He traded
I might
for
have
a
made
slightly newer
a joke
model
like that myself.
because he was having a hard time.
Oh,
Two great names, but it's
I wish I had a backup camera.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's actually kind of funny.
I think that clock's 1 minute slow. Does it matter?
I got 6 on mine, so.
Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Weaverville workshop for June 17th, 2025. First on the agenda is the budgets for fiscal year 2025-2026.
Mr. Vice Mayor, Council, appreciate your time tonight. What we'll go through is, at our last council meeting, what you had authorized us to come back with was a 3-cent tax increase, taking us to 38. We worked that budget. As you go through the packets on page 3, you'll see the general fund, the fire fund, and then the grant project fund. On page 8 is our water enterprise fund and our capital projects. And page 11 gives you a breakdown of budget summary by department. And in that discussion, it seemed that there was after the several members of the community had spoke, asking for you to consider even an additional tax increase. So what we have done tonight, if you would like to see it, we have prepared a document with a 4-cent tax increase. But again, I think council needs to do their due diligence on discussing whether we want a 3-cent or a 4, and we do have both of them prepared, and we'll give you an opportunity to discuss that now if you would like, before we move on to the fee schedules, or we can go through the fee schedules and pay classifications, because that won't change with whatever your recommendation is, and then have the discussion at the end. Either way you'd like for us to proceed.
Council members, you'll have a preference?
Well, the fee schedule will be pretty quick.
Right, so,
Yeah. It might be nice to go through the whole
okay,
thing.
we'll go through and then come back, circle back to you, and you can give us some guidance on the 3 or 4 cent.
Yes.
All right. So, Jeff, you want to talk about the fee schedule? So- Yeah,
No, not good.
okay.
Mhm.
Is the mic on, so, yeah. So- Yeah, we just, no, just. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we should go sit.
We have an
right
empty
there.
seat up
Yeah,
here
we could
too.
sit right there too, so.
But if y'all can hear me from here, I'm
Yes.
happy
Yeah.
right
We got you
here.
now.
So I'm not gonna to go over this line by line. I'm mostly gonna just hit the highlights on this and then offer to answer any questions for you. Each year, as part of your budget, you do adopt a fee schedule. We're doing this slightly differently this year in that we're pulling the fee schedule out of your budget ordinance. That has been recommended sort of across the state to have that as a freestanding ordinance. And really doubly so because we've got a fee schedule for your general fund and fire fund. And then because your water is set up as a public enterprise fund that operates a little bit differently, there's an ordinance for that as well. The general fund, fire fund, just a few changes. We did add a special event permit fee for town events with a no charge. It didn't make a lot of sense for us to pay ourselves on some of those permits. We have simplified some of the planning and zoning permit fees in favor of some fixed fees. I'm happy to show you some examples in that. We broadened the fee in lieu of sidewalks to include things like the Maple Trace stormwater requirements that you had. Now it's a to be determined fee, but at least it's in your fee schedule. There were a couple of fees that we added: construction debris violation fee and a street cut permit fee. Those have been added. And then of probably most interest to town council, we did listen to a lot of your conversations about the community center and the fees associated with primarily the private rentals for the community center, and also a little bit for this room as well. We have simplified the structure a fair degree. And we have increased the fees primarily on the non-resident, sort of commercial-based folks that might be renting. We have raised the rates just a little bit on the residents, nonprofits, employees on those. But I will tell you that it's a little bit hard to compare, say, how much of an increase it is, because we have simplified it. And so where in the past you'd had certain things grouped together and it depended on what all you wanted with your rental, this is now simplified. And so we'll keep an eye on that for next year and may have some further recommendations for you, but we think it's a good starting point for those. On the water fund side, we did include the water rate increase based on the study that was done, completed in 2024. We've added, there are a couple of areas where we looked to see whether we were really capturing either all of the material costs or all of our employee costs. And so there were a couple of areas where we did increase some fees. An example of that would be your tap fees. We weren't fully covering the cost of copper, for instance. So those increases you'll see pretty minimally. Let's see, we did add an irrigation fee section. That's new to you. In the past, you have indicated that one of your goals of your fee schedule and your water rates is to figure out how to conserve some water. And right now, your irrigation meters are billed just like your house is. And so there's not really an incentive for you to use less water in watering your lawn, for example. And so we did add a section on irrigation connections, and with some the fees on that are a little bit higher than your normal domestic usage. Any questions? Thank you.
We'll have Tanya talk to us about the pay plan and personnel policy, and we'll go into the discussion.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
I don't know where it's covered in that, but one of the items in the penalties was, I think, a $50 charge for someone blocking a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
That's awful low for the inconvenience it's gonna cause somebody. Because they can't normally find the person that,
Right.
to get it and everything, so I think that ought to be higher, but I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. I'm just pointing out if someone need to get out of their driveway or coming in, and somebody left their car there for 2 or 3 hours.
And we can adjust that, and Captain Shea, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the penalty for blocking a lane of travel is $100. So if council's
Oh,
discretion
I'm sorry.
would like to make that match, then we can do that, because I know
That's fine.
I know we
read
do have
somewhere
some
it was $50.
challenges where, no, I mean, and you may be correct on the blocking the driveway being 50, but I know the lane of travel is 100, and so if we need to look at that and make that match, then we can do that as well, so. Is that correct, Captain Shea? So- Yes, sir.
Yep.
So where you have one side of the street maybe striped with no parking, if someone chooses to park in that travel lane, now blocking the entire lane, then that is a $100 citation for blocking that travel lane.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
I think you're right, though, Doug. I think that if they're just blocking somebody's driveway, it is $50.
Right.
We definitely have that issue on my street.
I think it'd be higher, should be higher.
Right. Okay.
I've never had the problem myself, but I can just imagine the inconvenience of someone if
It's,
they had
it's,
to get out.
it's very common at 20 Brown Street,
Okay.
and it rolls down into Merriman sometimes too.
So, or is council suggestion, say make it at least match the $100 that the lane is?
Sure.
I'd be
Okay.
fine with that.
Okay, all right, we'll get that changed in there then, and noted. And as far as the fee schedule goes, are you good with everything else in there? Just make that change and amendment of $100 in that section?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Any council members object?
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Tanya?
Good evening. As part of your budget process each year, Town Council also adopts the pay plan and position classification plan for the upcoming fiscal year. You'll find that on page 28 and 29 of your agenda. So each year we do kind of a mini pay study, a market analysis. We have a company that helps us to make sure we're staying competitive with those around us. They've also been helping us fix our compression issue that we created several years ago. We're almost back to a 5% differential between each grade. Not quite there, but we've been working our way back each year. So they help us each year with those things. This pay plan does have 3% cost of living incorporated into it. Besides that, there's very minor changes. We have a couple of additional positions we've added to allow for some career development and succession planning, but other than that, very few changes from prior year. Anything I can answer for you on the pay plan? If not, do we need a motion at this point to approve it, or we?
Manager Harris, do you want to talk about how
Yeah.
COLA is going to roll out?
Yeah, and I was going to do that, follow up on this, but as Tanya mentioned in this, the 3% is shown in there, but at council's discussion previously, if the 3% COLA does get adopted in the budget, just to reiterate, the way we have done that for our current employees, is that 3% is divided out equally, so somebody making 38,000, they may get 6%. Somebody making 80,000, maybe 2.5 roughly. So that, just so that you are aware that the 3% is shown for new hire employees, but in our current, it would be approximately $2,100 split out amongst all the employees. We just want to make sure we did reiterate that.
Okay, but with that being said, now let's think about that. So if the employee makes 35,000 and there's gonna be a 3% there's gonna be a 3%, but the way that you're gonna do COLA this year is put it all in a bucket, and then it's gonna be evenly distributed, let's pretend, let's round off and say $3,000. So does that take that person to a $39,000 salary? Yeah,
It's gonna increase their base salary. So rather than their salary going up by the 3%, their salary is actually gonna go up closer to 5% for those at the very bottom.
that's gonna have a long-term, I agree with dividing it out and people in the lower scale, but it didn't dawn on me until just now that it's gonna change their salary position so that it keeps escalating every year. This is a major change when you think about it from that point of view. You know what I'm saying? I agree totally with the bucket being divided and everybody getting $3,000, but I wonder if it should be a bonus instead of increasing everybody's salary.
The problem with a one-time bonus without bumping up their base salary, they're no better off the next year.
But then next year, what happens is, won't we, I'm asking, because, you know, you've been doing this longer than me. So what happens next year when you talk to us about, what is that word that y'all use about class systems, and how does that put us with these people zoning out at the top of their class?
The compression issue?
The depression issue.
Depression.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, because one year, last year or year before, we had to do something because of the compression
We
issue.
had to make a lot of market adjustments because we had compressed
Right,
everyone in the
market
lower
adjustments.
levels. But what this is gonna do is kind of slide them horizontally. It's not gonna cause issues vertically, if that makes sense. They're gonna move a little further along between the minimum and the midpoint and the maximum. Because they're getting a higher percentage, they're gonna move a little more horizontally towards that mid and the max. Which people at the higher end, it's gonna be the opposite.
Right.
Instead of moving as much as they would with 3%, they're gonna be closer to the minimum with the 3,000 or the 2,100.
Well, they're not going backwards. They're just not, they're
They're
not
not-
jumping a
right.
class.
But they would be going backwards if you count it as a bonus, because then the next year you're back to a deflated amount. You
Yeah.
can't do that. You know, cost of living is gonna go up
Right.
every year over year.
I just had to walk through it in my head, you
Yeah.
know? My little brain had to go round and round in a circle.
I mean, rent, food, and gas is not going down
No.
anytime soon.
And if we did it as a one-time bonus rather than an increase to the salary, you run the risk of somebody then falling below the minimum on the pay
Right.
plan, because our pay plan went up 3%.
Yeah, okay, good. I get it.
Any further discussion on that?
I did have a question. At one point, we had mentioned merit. I wasn't sure if we kind of rolled that into this 3% COLA or if we're doing
Well,
something.
the merit, the COLA was at 3%, and the 2% was or up to 2% was my understanding of the recommended merit. I mean, obviously, we were
Yes.
open to any suggestions on that as
All right, I
well.
just
but like I
didn't
said, it's just-
see it in here, that's why I
Yeah,
asked.
no, I appreciate it, yes, I skipped over that part, but yes, it's 3% COLA which was adjusted out to the 2,100, and then the 2%, or up to 2% for merit potential.
Okay. Very
Where
good.
does that fall in here? The merit stuff?
In the salary lines. Like the salary lines that you see budgeted include 3% COLA and 2% merit.
Any other questions before I move to personnel policy? Okay. On page 30, we're proposing some amendments to your personnel, 30 and 31. Under sick leave, which is on our benefits and leave, section 4, what we are proposing is currently we allow employees to transfer their sick leave if they come from another municipality, local government agency, somebody that is part of the Elders local government retirement system. But currently, that sick leave cannot be transferred till after 1 year of service. It does not cost us any money as far as payout or anything, so what I'm looking at is proposing is once the employee completes their probationary period, which is typically 6 months, then they would be eligible to transfer that sick leave in. For example, with our accrual rate of sick leave, somebody could be here 3 or 4 months, and then if they take 1 day of sick leave, then they're out of time when they've got a bank sitting over there that could be transferred in. So what we do in that case, that's one of the manager's discretion that would allow them, if they were going to have to use, whether it be an off-duty accident or anything like that, be out longer. But we felt that with it being no cost to the town, that it was a benefit to allow them to transfer that sick leave in after their 6-month probationary period, or once they complete the probationary.
So the money's already out there?
It's
Or is it
sick
just-
leave.
It's just sick leave, so there's no pay to it. And so even if they were to retire in 5 years or whatever that time is theirs, so we don't pay, and if somebody leaves, the max we pay out is 240 regardless, and that doesn't include your sick time, so we don't pay out for sick time. It would just be a max of 240 vacation. So if they did roll over 2,080 hours, which would be a year of sick time, then it's still at no cost to the town on that, other than, during that year period. Any other questions? All right. On the next one, under section 5, this is a new benefit in the personnel policy, is maternity and paternity leave for the mother and father. What we've looked at is full-time employees are eligible for up to 2 weeks of paid maternity and paternity leave for the birth or adoption of any child that the employee has continuing parental role with. The 2 weeks of paid leave is calculated based on the pay rate at the time of the leave is taken and does not include any overtime. So for example, I mean, their salary is already budgeted for that year, so it's, no extra money in there. For one, they wouldn't be accruing any type of overtime, but we would look at it as basically if they wanted that time off, then it would be 2 weeks with pay, which we felt was an added benefit this day and age to kind of help our employees out. And again, that does cover maternity or paternity leave in that aspect. Any questions on that aspect of the maternity or paternity leave?
I'll go on record and say 2 weeks seems low, frankly. Maybe not paternity, I mean, that seems pretty standard, but I mean, maternity, I'd be okay with as much as 6 weeks.
I thought maternity leave was more than 2 weeks for the.
Right now, we don't have any paid maternity.
We don't have any paid maternity leave. This
Wow.
would be with pay, yeah.
But, okay, so then how does the sick leave work with that? Because most people have a lot of sick leave. Is there no pay for sick leave? Is it non-paid?
Yeah, if
I
they
mean, I'm
have,
just
if
trying
they
to-
have sick leave accrued, they can take sick leave for maternity leave.
Okay.
And they're allowed, under FMLA, they're allowed 12 weeks if they qualify. If they've been here a year, they can take 12 weeks of leave,
But there's no
but
pay
it's
with
not,
that.
it's not paid
Right.
leave. So the town right now does not offer any paid maternity or paternity leave.
Wow. I agree with you. I mean, everywhere I've ever worked, it's usually
Yeah,
6
that's-
weeks
Yeah, I'd do 6 weeks.
for the woman.
And then I
Two
offer
for
an
the-
extra 6 weeks of unpaid.
Right.
Which would get you to the 12 weeks.
That
of-
gets you to 12.
Okay.
That's right. It's a mix.
If you're thinking about increasing that, I would encourage you to do the same for a father as you do for a mother. Just because there are certain circumstances where you've got a single dad that's caring for a newborn.
Could we split it at 4?
I don't think it's like that in the public
Yeah,
sector.
in the private
Yeah.
sector.
Yeah, we would have to look that up before we go
We
forward.
could split it at 4. I mean, yeah, I've never seen non-governmental be equal, but this is government, so I know.
Since we have nothing on the books, we should probably get something and then revisit this.
I agree.
So go through with this and then revisit.
Or add a little bit to
Or
it, but
add a
still
little bit to
revisit. But still do some more homework and see if we have new
If we
thoughts
need to
about
keep
that.
it, if our attorneys are advising that we keep it equal, for equal protection, I mean, then 4 and 4 would be my suggestion. That would be my vote.
Scotty, a question for you. Have you lost any firefighters because of parental leave issues?
We haven't, well, I'll answer that question this way. We have lost one due to insurance, because he was starting a family, and the employee still in the fire service we went to offered family coverage on their insurance for free. And and they were expecting a child along the way. She was far along to where that factored into his decision. And that's on the insurance side, not particularly on the paternity side or maternity side. But that was factored into his decision, and the reason he chose to go to it, because they were still in the same retirement system, but did offer 100% family coverage as well. So that was his decision on that. So, but as far as people being out, we do have several young families starting out in the fire department. So, and that's a challenge in itself. When you look at somebody, for easy math, if they're making $50,000 and then starting out and having a family, and they're paying anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a month in rent, so it doesn't take long for any of that to go away, especially if they are a new employee. With our accrual rate on sick leave, then they may not only have a week or two, and obviously if they've been here long enough, they get FLMA and they're FLMA eligible, but that is without pay as well for those 12 weeks, and it just protects their job for 12 weeks.
But you're losing their expertise and training for the
Yes.
period of time.
Yes,
So there's an investment that's,
yes, sir.
The way this is worded, it says 2 weeks for paid maternity or paternity, both.
Mhm.
Okay.
Correct.
What if it was 6 weeks for whichever parent is the primary stay-at-home person with the new child, and 2 weeks for the other?
One of those, that parent may not be our employee, so we wouldn't be able to offer that option.
That's assuming they're both work for us.
Okay. Well, this assumes they both work for us too.
But no, this is assuming that whether you are a mother
yeah,
or a father,
okay.
maternity
different
here.
families.
Yes. So for the paternity side, on the male side, whether it's,
Got it.
whichever, whether you're adopting a child or what, then we put it in there that way.
Yeah, got it.
If it makes a difference, I can tell you, out of our close to 90 full-time positions, we have 8 or 9 women. We have to report that to the Department of Labor each month, so we count them up, and I think we have 9 out of the close to 90 total. It's a very small percentage. So we'll be paying this much more on the paternity side than we will on the maternity side.
Maybe we leave it like it is, it's just written until we research some more. So you have 10% women and 90% men that work here. That's a good statistic to know.
One way you could do it, you could do 4 weeks, or do 6, I'm just spitballing, you could do 6 weeks at half pay, and that would be an incentive to work. And you're still getting 3 weeks now worth of pay. But it discourages the fathers from just taking it if they're the breadwinner. I don't know, I'm just talking out loud now. Okay.
2 weeks seems low, however, we may need to mull it over and just at least get this going and then revisit, or do we want to make nod heads and say 4?
Well, basically, this is getting something on the books we've never had on the books before. So this is a good first start.
Yes.
Okay.
And the way, I don't know about government, but the way FMLA works in the private sector is if you do take the 12 weeks, you have to use all of your paid sick time before you can ever start drawing anything from the FMLA anyway. So,
But now, the FMA basically is that it is unpaid leave unless you have to use your own leave. So otherwise, I mean, it is protected for those 12 weeks, and that's all the FMA promises you is that protected class at that point in time for those 12 weeks. But in order to be paid, then you would have to be using your own time.
is it only protected for maternity leave, or is it
No, it's
protected for
FMA
everything?
is for any, whether it's an injury or anything else, or taking care of a family member as long as the doctor has authorized as FMLA, and then there's still other standards as far as the number of hours worked in order to be FMLA eligible in that.
Okay.
I have a question that's on a whole different topic, if that's allowed. What is a construction debris violation?
So your contractors are required to keep essentially mud and debris off of the streets. And so what that would do is if you've got a contractor out there that's really violating that, this is going to give us a little more teeth to make sure that they're cleaning up their site, for instance, after a rain event.
Is it outside the bounds of their job site?
Yeah, when their job site spills out into the road, the town street running right in front of them, this is going to require them it's putting some good violation, or good fine in there for that
I'm
violation.
not disagreeing with that at all. I just wondered what were the parameters of it. Thank you.
And so just for clarification, for our staff do-outs, where did we end up on the maternity and paternity? Leave it like it is or go on 4 weeks, or just so that we can make sure the policy is correct?
We're gonna leave it as you
Okay.
presented it. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, thank you. All right.
There
So
is
that- I'm
there
sorry.
is a resolution in your packet for that item. So if you were, when we're ready to start doing some actions, a motion to adopt that resolution, it would be appropriate.
Anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to adopt resolutions on page 31 for the change in sick leave and transferring in as probationary period and adding maternity, paternity leave for town employees.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council. That concludes my piece tonight. So if y'all would like to have any discussion on the, as presented on the 3 cent, or we have an option that we could show you the 4 cent. But again, that's up to y'all on which way you want to proceed, and then we will circle back that if you want to
Vice
move
Mayor,
forward.
I'd like to lead off if it's okay.
Sure.
What we have coming is a perfect storm, almost. I can remember, wasn't too long ago, where we had almost 80% funds balance. And we decided we need to use that up, so we spent it down. We didn't do a tax increase for a number of years. Now we've got a tax increase, and also we're gonna be hit by the county with another tax increase of 3.26%, I think. And we've got external factors which are gonna affect the cost of living for residents. The tariffs that's being imposed is gonna be a burden on people. We can't make it all up in 1 year, but my recommendation would be that, and I was on council when it was voted for, but we pull the fund balance down pretty quickly in a short time. We haven't had a tax increase in a number of years. I think we need to take and look at moderation of increasing the tax rate as we need to every year, even if it's 1 cent or whatever. But to get hit with, as far as I know at this point, 6.25%, plus these external factors of what's going on, which is out of our control with the worldwide. So I would be much in favor of the 3 cents at this point. But I think in the future that we should continue to maybe do an annual good reassessment rather than wait a few years and all of a sudden get hit by a big chunk. Plus, like I said, the perfect storm with all these other factors that's coming into play.
Yeah, I believe it's been 9 years.
9
Yeah.
years.
And that was a mistake.
And you've been on there the whole 9 years, right?
Yep.
Does anybody want to hear the 4%? I think we've kind of seen what those numbers look like, but we could have town manager go over that, or we could just all take a turn discussing whatever you prefer.
I just want to say that when we first started talking about this, I was in favor of leaving it at 2 cents. And we've had a lot of discussion since then. We've had letters, we've had folks coming in and speaking to us, and I'm okay with 3 cents. There was a bit of discussion this last month about maybe going to 4 cents. The letters that we've gotten are in favor of 3, maybe 4 cents. The neighbors that are speaking to me about this and asking what we're going to do would be fine with 3 cents. I'm just saying my neighbors in my community back here in downtown Main Street is fine with 3%. So I originally was on 2, and I would absolutely approve 3 cents. Nobody's very excited about 4 right now. And they understand why we're raising it overall.
I'll reiterate that. I'm hearing very similar sentiment from my neighbors as well, that they're in favor of a tax rate. I love the fact that we live in a town where people are willing to stand up and say, raise my taxes. That's a great thing. The question being, I also was in favor of 2, and then I was able to be moved to 3. I'm not going to get on board with 4. And I'll tell you why. To reiterate Doug's points about, well, we could be cautious and we might be able to add another cent down the road if we need to. We don't just need to raise money just for the sake of raising money. The other thing that I would just remind council, and Tanya, probably this is more in your wheelhouse, but next year comes the revaluation. And every year for the next 4 or 5 years, we already can see the horizon of our tax base expanding and expanding and expanding. We know that's going to happen. There will be more funds coming into the town based on those 2 factors, an expansion of tax base and a revaluation of our property values. So I don't think we need to go to 4 to get done what we want to get done. If we do, let's add a cent next year. That's my thought.
Yeah, I'm good with the 3 cent tax increase, but I'd like to couple that with kind of an agreement that we're going to be very cautious going forward in terms of where we stand with the fund balance and whether we need to have a 1 cent increase later on at some time, but it needs to be a yearly thing instead of waiting 9 years to dig a hole.
That was the same, yeah.
So that's
agree.
my take on that.
And I won't be here next year when you are digging a hole. So just try to be conscious of the fact that, as one of our people that wrote to us, raising taxes is not the worst thing that town council can do. Ignoring the need to provide the funds for the services that are vital and necessary to the well-being of the town is probably one of the worst things we can do. So with this budget at 3%, we will still be taking $733,866 out of the fund balance. We'll take 1 million, 1.3, but I can deal with the fact that 650 of that is going to go to capital funds, because that's what the fund balance is supposed to be for. It's supposed to help pay for the fire trucks and the garbage trucks. So another thing that I'd just like to say to the people who have wrote us letters that says, we are the community that supports you. You know, we realize we voted you in. You're supposed to be making these decisions for us. We don't, what I'm hearing them say is, we don't want to have less services. And we don't want to lose the good employees that we have. We love our employees, and we really want to give them a raise. And so if you had told us that you needed to increase taxes, you should have increased taxes, basically is what I'm hearing them say. So with all the bills that we have coming up, we have to pay them. And so what I will really resent when I am not sitting here is if the next town council doesn't do the right thing about raising taxes and we have to go get loans and we pay interest rates on those loans when we should have raised taxes to begin with so that we would have had money to pay our bills. Because what we've done in the last 9 years is we've hired people And now we're paying $733,000 worth of operation expenses out of our savings account for next year. We have bought a garbage truck and a sweeper truck and a knuckle truck, and we've put money away for a fire truck. Scotty's telling me we need 2 more fire apparatuses. He's saying with the life expectancy, the ones that we bought, we need to buy again in the near future. So over the next 4 to 5 years, no, it won't be 9. You know, over the next 4 to 5 years, he's gonna be asking you for another $1.5 million and another $1.5 million. And so now that you know that 1 penny only brings in $133,000, then I'd just like to ask all of you to think mathematically next year when you are sitting here. Because sometimes I feel like I may be the only one that's thinking mathematically. And when you give people a raise, which we want to do, and you want to give them a merit, 2 pennies doesn't even do that. So this year, we're gonna do a 3 penny raise, we're gonna do a 3 penny tax increase, we're gonna give everybody a raise, we're gonna keep all our employees, we're gonna hire another detective, we're gonna put a truck with them. I mean, all these things that we do, that people love that we do, we're not asking them to help pay for it. I mean, we're pretending like we act as if we're this really nice. I went on vacation a couple weeks ago, and where I was at, I said to myself, being in Weaverville is like being on vacation. You know, we have 6 miles of sidewalks. We have a community center that offers free stuff every day. We have a lake to walk around. We have a nature park to take our dogs. You know, we have a good police department, we feel safe. A good fire department, we feel safe. A great good public works, where they pick up everything every week. If there's a hole in the road, they fix it. So I think when I'm in Weaverville, I feel so wonderful. I feel like I'm on vacation most of the time. And it doesn't hurt me a bit to think that I need to pay taxes for these people to do their job. And now I'm getting cold chills because, you know, if you can be on vacation every day of your life and live in a wonderful place like this, I looked up and I said, when did people start paying taxes? You know, that's the only way that we can provide all these services to people is through taxes. So anyway, I'm okay if everybody else wants to only do 3. I mean, you know, bringing in 1 more cent's only another $133,000, but realizing that we haven't funded the street thing in how many years?
We skipped 2.
Okay.
This next one will be just 133,000.
Yeah.
After not funding it for 2 years, we're only funding it for 133.
Yeah, and that doesn't do much. I mean, Dale's not gonna schedule people to come pave, you know, a football field of something. So anyway, I understand where y'all are coming from. We just need to do better in the future.
Well, I mentioned that we had let this go too long, and we pulled it down, and we can learn from our mistakes, but we're not going to catch up in 1 year, but we need to have increases every year that we need to in modest amounts, and let it spread out. I'm looking here at the population. You made the point on the growth, but on the information that we were given last night regarding the growth, we're going to be bumping 10,000 by 2030 in 5 years. So that's going to increase our tax base a good bit besides the revaluation. So,
Well, if you look at it, if you drive around and look at everything that we already have approved and see how long it takes, about a year to get all their permits, it takes a year to 18 months to get the water and sewer, and then finally they start building. So, I mean, we know we've got 1,200 things on the books, but we're not gonna be seeing taxes from them for 2 or 3 years. So, next year's still gonna hurt, just so you know.
I'm not happy with
3% is
3 cents.
is good. I'm open to 4 cents. And I think going so long without a tax increase has probably hurt us a little bit. And if we go forward, then every year we need to take a harder look at, you know, do we need to add something to really make this go? And we also need to look at how growth and income's factored into that.
Yeah, I was at 4 mainly because of the uncertainty in the marketplace. And you know what happens if FEMA goes away? Where does that leave us?
We have to pay our bills.
You have to pay our bills.
Then you have to get a loan, then you have to pay interest, and then
There you
you
go.
really gotta raise taxes.
That's kind of where I'm coming from, so.
Shall we take a vote?
Straw poll, maybe?
Well, it sounds like you would go 4,
Yeah.
but that leaves us 3 and 3. So we're gonna have to wait and have Patrick.
So let's table it and let the mayor come back on Monday. Everybody good with that? Okay, all right, I'm gonna table that discussion. And any further discussion?
Do you, excuse me, do you want to go ahead and, I didn't hear any real controversy or discussion over the water fund. Do you want to go ahead and consider adoption of that budget tonight? And then the adoption of the fee schedules and position classification plan? Or do you want to, did you want to hold everything?
I mean, I think there's 6 of us here.
We can
go
do the
ahead and
water.
handle this business tonight.
I mean, the good thing about water is it helps pay for itself.
Yeah.
We don't have these dilemmas.
So there is an ordinance in there. It begins on page 8. And so if you're happy with what was presented, a motion to adopt the budget for 2025, 2026 for the Water Enterprise Fund, that will get you there.
All right, anybody like to make that motion?
Sure. Move to approve the budget ordinance for the Water Public Enterprise Fund.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we need to do the other one? Yeah, all right. Would somebody like to make a motion on the community center fees? I believe that's the next one.
Yeah, so that could be a motion to approve the fee schedule ordinance for the general fund and fire fund with the one change to increase the blocking private driveway to $100.
Anybody like to
Can I
make that
make that
motion?
motion as she stated?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for navigating that through for us.
If you want me to keep going, I'm happy to, but I'm also happy to turn it over
Sure,
to
you
you.
can keep going.
So the next one is the fee schedule for your water enterprise fund. So a motion to adopt the fee schedule for that fund as presented. Didn't hear any changes to that one.
I'm not aware of any changes. Is there a motion for that one?
That was the 5% increase. Motion to move that we do adopt the Water Enterprise Fund increase.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the last one is on page 27. That's your position classification and pay plan. I think that there's a motion to approve the 2025-2026 position classification and pay plan as presented.
Yes.
I'll make the motion to approve the 2025-2026 position classification and pay plan.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I believe if there's no further business in front of us, I adjourn this meeting.